There will be. There will be.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the regular session of the Hemet City Council. Sarah, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Krupa? Here. Councilmember Mills?
Here.
Councilmember Wright?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith?
Here. Here. At this time, we will have an invocation by Marshall Walker of the Hemet San Jacinto Interfaith Council, followed by the flag salute by Councilmember Wright. Please rise.
Dear Lord, we are gathered here today to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgments, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Thank you, Lord, for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Place your right hand on your heart and join in the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, I'll ask the city attorney to please give us a report out of closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council met in closed session at 6 o'clock with regard to items 1 and 2 on the agenda. With regard to item 1, was a conference with legal counsel with regard to one matter of existing litigation, Fernandez v. City of Hemet. City Council received a brief from the litigator in that case. There was no other reportable action. City Council also met in conference with its labor negotiator, heard an update, and gave direction. There was no other reportable action on that. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time we have the consent calendar, which is routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council unless a member of staff, the public, or the council wish to pull an item. So at this time I'll ask if there's any members of the public that wish to pull a consent calendar item. Okay, seeing as there are none, I'll ask if there's staff would like to pull an item. Oh, I'm sorry. What number? On your agenda, there's a list of, it says consent calendar, a list of items that are up for approval. I can't hear it.
What's up for approval?
If right up there is one of these, there's a whole list of items. Right at the front, I believe.
Right up front,
right up
there's a
front.
podium.
Podium right there.
Any members? I'm sorry. You said nothing from staff. Anything from the council?
No.
No. We should just wait, or okay. All right. At this time, then I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
So, okay, approval made by Councilwoman Krupa, seconded by Councilmember Smith. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, by the like sign. Okay, that passes 5-0. Next, we have our discussion action item 19, a follow-up to the analysis submittals of the request for proposals. I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Mayor and members of the City Council, we have forwarded to you a written report which contains a great deal of information and answers the questions you directed us to look into at the meeting of February 26th. Basically, they were to meet and confer with the Firefighters Association, determine our PERS unfunded liability and look at the establishment of a Hemet paramedic program, and we had to work with several private providers listed. Sarah, hit the button. Oh, I got it? Okay. All right. Thank you. The delay was because I didn't have the button here. Come on now. It'd make you think so, wouldn't it? There we go. That lists the direction given to council at our last meeting. In addition to those particular directions, based on the public comment and direction of the council, we also re-examined the closure of Hemet Fire Station number 3, and the outcome of that was obviously that that option has been abandoned. It will not be closed. We did something. All right. We also then were required to receive revised provisions from okay. Proposals from both CAL FIRE and from Hemet Fire, and they were to reflect the implications of adding a paramedic program to the Hemet City Fire Department and the cost implications for Riverside County Fire to go ahead and change it. It's not working. It's not working. Go ahead and change the slide. Okay, you're ahead of me now. But anyway, our finance director, Rita Conrad, will provide you with the cost data that we determined and set into the report. Rita?
Rita, go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Let's get started.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, community. As our city manager outlined for you a little bit earlier, I'm going to go through and just go over some of the questions that you and the members of the community had about some of the unanswered cost about both Hemet City Fire and Riverside County Fire. If you recall, during our last presentation, Chief Morris had indicated that he had been working closely to establish private-public partnerships with a number of agencies in Hemet, being AMR, the Hemet Valley Hospital, and then also a training Institute for EMT, Southern California EMS Institute. And our job was to go back and find out what would and would not be paid covered in those costs. So I'm trying to make sure we're on the right slide here. I think we need to go one more. Okay, so one of the things Chief Morris indicated was that AMR had committed to provide training, ongoing training for our paramedics, and we were able to confirm that with a letter from AMR that they would provide ongoing training, and basically anything that they have in their training infrastructure, they would share with us with regard to training and medical director services. And we had a similar written commitment from the Hemet Valley Hospital for the same types of services. So both agencies offered to provide those services at no cost to the city. we weren't able to establish exactly what a dollar value for that would be, but in talking with Chief Morris, it's easily in the range of $50,000 to $100,000 that service would be worth. And then also Chief Morris has been working with Southern California EMS Training Institute for also ongoing training. And this was more of an arrangement to trade services. So they would provide the city with ongoing training similar to Hemet Valley Hospital and AMR, but in exchange, the city would provide field internships for their EMT students. They need field time to get their accreditations from the state and county. So the one thing we did establish is that none of these agencies would pay for any startup equipment costs. Chief Morris was able to get some estimates for the defibrillators that we would need for the engines, and then some outfitting for the apparatus, and that's estimated to be about $87,900 one-time startup costs. Thank you. Then the other big component that the Hemet Fire Department has been working on is to get EMD, emergency medical dispatching, in the city. And Chief Morris and our former assistant city manager had been in talks with the State 911 Commission about what they would and wouldn't provide for the city. And basically, they will provide dispatcher equipment. So the city currently has 5 dispatcher workstations, and that the police dispatch uses. One of those we don't really use. It's not really committed, so we're using 4 of the 5. They have offered to staff, provide equipment for 1 more workstation, and then the trade-off is that the city would have to commit those 2 workstations, so 4 of the 6, to fire and EMS calls. And along with that, they would provide emergency medical dispatching for all 6 workstations. And that's valued at a cost of about $43,000 for the emergency medical dispatching software. But one of the things we also found out was earlier on in the conversations, there was the hope that the state would provide the staffing for 2 workstations, which to have 24-hour coverage of 2 workstations dedicated to fire and EMS would require 8 dispatchers. But after we had a conference call and a follow-up correspondence with the 911 division, they made it clear that they do not provide operational costs. So they won't provide any staffing costs. They'll provide training to train our folks to use the EMD software, and they'll pay for the additional dispatcher station and all associated equipment, but they will not pay for the dispatchers. And I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, EMD, that you would have to have additional dispatchers, but for those of you that don't know, and Chief Morris and Chief Hawkins can add to this later, EMD actually provides more care at the dispatch level. So there's pre-arrival instructions. It comes all the way from that all the way up to resource allocation, which Chief Morris talks about a lot, sending the right equipment to the right call, and I know he'll cover that some more. So you do need to increase your dispatchers to have EMD in the city. Then the other item that we were instructed to follow up on was the cost of the ongoing liability with the fire department should we contract out. In other words, what would the city still have to pay in PERS for the fire personnel that we would no longer have. And originally in our estimate, we costed that to be about $500,000 annually. We didn't have any firm numbers from PERS, and as it turns out, they still won't give us any concrete numbers. However, they did provide more information to us to try to tune up our estimate a little bit, so the cost actually went up from $500,000 to about $663,000. So basically what that means is if the city were to contract out, we would still be responsible for some of that PERS cost. It wouldn't go away. So it's not that Riverside County's fires proposal is going up, but it's the costs that remain with the city that are going up. And we've updated our numbers to reflect that. And the other item to point out, and it's covered in the staff report, is that we would not see this change in cost until the 3rd year of contracting, because PERS is on a 2-year lag time. So our rates would not be updated to about 3 years into the contract. So you would see significant savings in year 1 and 2, and then things would level off more in year 3. And I apologize, it's a little disconcerting when you don't have your clicker to control the PowerPoint yourself, so we sound a little scattered. So then what you have in front of you are the updated costs for Hemet keeping a paramedic program in-house, or the 2 proposals that Riverside County Fire has offered that don't involve closing Station 3. And again, most of the costs that changed these proposals were due to the PERS change and to adding the 8 dispatchers for EMD. Otherwise, there were not significant changes to the proposals. So you can see we had to do this because of the delay in PERS. We did a 3-year estimate, to be fair, to show how year 1 and year 2, the costs going with Riverside County are substantially less than if Hemet Fire were to have their own in-house paramedic program, and then that levels off in year 3 once the PERS, we call it PERS carryover, kicks in. Next slide. And this slide then just shows the difference in Hemet City Fire's in-house proposal for a paramedic program versus Riverside County's proposal. And Riverside County Fire had 2 proposals, but we picked the one that was the most comparable to Hemet's proposal, which is to have an engine and a squad at Station 1 and then a truck shared in the valley. Hemet Fire's proposal also has a squad and an engine at Station 1, and then they have a truck stationed at Station 4 that is cross-staffed with the engine, meaning that the truck is available for the engine crew to jump onto should it be needed. So these were the most comparable proposals. And you can see the difference in cost for the proposals in year 1 and 2 are about $1 million less for Riverside County Fire's proposal versus Hemet City Fire in-house. But then that difference shrinks in year 3 to about $343,900. That's when the cost for PERS kicks into the city. So the last row is just the cumulative total over 3 years. Over 3 years, it would be about a $2.3 million difference in cost. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the city manager.
Thank you, Rita. And in conclusion, what the city and the council is trying to achieve is a higher level of service, which is certainly required in Hemet, and that's the addition of the paramedic program, no matter which way you decide, increased fire protection, and the proper level of command structure. And the proposal is to do it at a lower cost, which should be a more efficient and effective use of the public dollar. Now, Rita and I are prepared to answer any questions you might have about the proposal process. Chief Morris is here to answer questions about the Hemet Fire proposal. Chief Hawkins from Riverside County Fire is here to answer any questions you might have from that agency.
Okay. I will turn it over to council. Any questions at all from council?
Are we just going to go down? Can we just go down?
Sure, go down the line.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You want to get that in?
You can start. I think you don't have any? Really? Okay.
No, I don't have to start.
Okay.
My first question is for Chief Hawkins. Chief Hawkins, welcome.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening, Chief. Very amateurish question here. I hear the terms EMT and paramedics. Can you tell me if there's a fundamental difference between qualifications and what those 2 professionals do on a regular basis?
Yes, there is a difference. An EMT is basically defined as an emergency medical technician, and it's a person who is certified to provide basic life support. And a paramedic is someone who's certified to provide advanced life support. The paramedic training is typically upwards of 1,400 hours total. An EMT's training is about 150. So there's a significant difference. But please allow me to explain what is really the clinical difference. A paramedic can do 3 invasive techniques that an EMT cannot do. A paramedic can insert an endotracheal tube in a person's throat to provide a patent airway. A paramedic can also defibrillate or read heart rhythms and defibrillate a heart based on whatever rhythms present. The third technique that a paramedic may do is called drug therapy, either IV intravenously or IM intramuscularly.
And this could be an AMR question, but do you know if the AMR are qualified fully as a paramedic with the same type of qualifications that we'd see in our fire engines?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief. That was the question.
Bonnie?
Chief Morris? The startup-
Good evening, Council.
Excuse me. Startup equipment costs of $87,000. I understood that the hospital was going to help with equipment, and did that not include the defibrillators and?
No, the purchase of defibrillators was going to be leased by either the hospital or AMR, but we also have a EMS enhancement fund that includes $60,000. Now, that's something I pointed out in my first presentation. Those funds are actually received from AMR as late fees that we've been collecting over a period of years. And that fund is a revenue fund. It is not a line item out of my budget, and it's not something that we're budgeted for annually. This revenue account has been collecting money for more than 10 years. We found some refurbished, a line of entire refurbished monitors that really reduced the cost of picking up monitors. Something that would cost $35,000 brand spanking new out of the box, refurbished from the same company, would be a quarter of the cost. So we actually have the funding available just to go ahead and purchase those ourselves.
Great. I have a question for Chief. Thank you.
Thank you,
Morris.
Council member?
I'm not used to going back and forth here, so could you tell me the added cost that we estimate, that would be estimated of putting an engine at Station 5?
The extra cost would probably be really close to about $1.4 to $1.5 million.
They'll come back to me. Thank you.
Councilmember Krupa?
Oh, okay. Chief Morris.
Yes, ma'am.
And in the presentation we just saw, with the agreements with AMR and the hospital, the slide said ongoing training costs would be picked up by both of these private entities. How long is ongoing? Forever and ever and ever?
Well, as everybody well knows, AMR has an ongoing renewable contract. They'll be around for at least 3 years, and a good chance they'll be around for a long time after that. I intend to use the hospital because they're going to be around forever. That's quite a large building, and we'll have an opportunity to train with them for an extended period of time.
Okay, then my next question on the dispatchers. We currently, this is where I'm going to confuse you with what I'm going to say.
Yes, ma'am.
We currently have 4 stations at PD, and PD picks up the charge for those, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Chief Brown, you can nod or do whatever back there too. We need a minimum of 2 stations for EMD, correct?
Yes,
to
ma'am.
have a 24/7, 365. Okay. And to do that, we need a total of 8 people to do those 2 slots to make sure we have adequate coverage.
Correct.
Okay. So we have 1 physical spot now. We can add a second physical location.
Yes, ma'am, the 911
In the fire
can-
department, right? Or in the police department, correct? Okay. Chief Brown is going, yes. And the state EMD will fund all of the hardware and software for this, but not the actual bodies to sit in the chair.
That's correct, and all the training to bring the entire dispatch center up to EMD level also, which is terrific. We've needed that for quite some time.
Now I'm going to ask you a hypothetical. Would it be something that EMD service would be implemented immediately with the hiring of immediate 8 people for training and whatever, or would this be a program that if we retain Hemet Fire that it would be phased in?
There would definitely be an implementation process, and the good part about this is the 911 Commission, who oversees the entire state of California, will be the people implementing it for us.
Okay,
that
now
is terrific.
I have another question. Would these people be cross-trained into PD dispatch and vice versa, so that we could have backups?
I don't want to step on Chief Brown's toes, but I would be almost for certain that that's how he would set up his dispatch center.
And he is nodding. So.
Right. Yes, the 911 Commission in their training included training across the entire floor at the dispatch center, bringing all the hardware up to date, all the software up to date, and everybody in the dispatch center up to date as EMD personnel.
Okay, then I guess this is probably, you just made me think a little bit further on this. The best case scenario, and I'm going to look at our city manager too, because he's probably going to dread me coming up with this, but if we have 6 stations, everybody is cross-trained, there's no, would everybody be doing, quote, both? Or would fire, medical emergency then still have to be pushed off to whoever those second 2 positions 5 and 6, or would 6 people be doing all of police and all of fire and all of medical all the time?
Well, that would be a format that Chief Brown would operate in his dispatch
So
center.
this is going into his budget, so you don't have to worry about it.
Actually, the 8 personnel would be coming from our budget. So
I'm sorry.
there's a good chance that the information would be transferred to the 2 seats that do EMD.
Okay.
It all depends on what works. There's a lot of different models out there.
So Rita would do her apportionment that we love for her to do. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that, thank you. I have a question for Chief Hawkins, and I will apologize to you that I didn't see you in the city manager's office the other day, so I wasn't ignoring you when I walked by.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember. You know, I didn't know if I waved and you saw me, or, you know, I didn't know if I was trying to be very pleasant and waves. Excuse me.
See, you waved and I just turned away, right?
Okay. Thank you very much.
I have a question on a couple things on this last proposal coming in. A couple items that were eliminated in your budget. And somebody's phone is on. There was a $50,000, I believe, like discretionary fund, and $100,000 estimated direct costs were both removed from your estimates, as maybe they wouldn't be needed. And I always have problems when people take money out for estimated direct costs because they're always needed. So can we put those back in?
I'm going to ask Chief Fulcher to come up and at least ask the question.
Okay. It's you. No, it wasn't Lori.
Actually, that's not correct. What you saw on our proposal, you saw a removal of the direct charges.
Yes.
However, you saw in your proposal that Rita provided was a $50,000 estimate over. So the $50,000 still stayed. It was never in ours. It was in yours. So what we did is we looked at it. We were going that this would be the worst case scenario, but she put another $50,000 in worst case scenario. I can tell you that none of our partner cities have ever come close to $50,000 in direct charges. So we removed
Get
ours.
that in writing.
Well, it is in writing.
It is. Okay. Then this is, Chief, I'm back to you.
Well, we're ready to go.
Okay. And this is just something that I really don't understand, because I've gone through the contract that CAL FIRE has with the county, and that on July 1 of 2012, the county got a 2.5% bump, cities got 3.1, and the overhead went up 0.3. Considering the fact that right now in this fiscal year, county fire is $5.7 million over budget, how does that actually get reconciled at the end of the year? I mean, do the contract cities get their share of the bump up? Does
I'd like to clarify that.
Okay.
We have about 30 total agreements countywide. We protect 21 of the 28 cities in the county. Each one of those are separate, and the budgets are balanced. And all of our cooperative agreements are a not to exceed agreement. Typically, for those city agreements, we budget top step and often come in 6 to 10% below top step or what we budget. So that's a net savings to the city. Now the county budget, the Board of Supervisors knew because of the structural fire tax drop, and it has been huge, that their commitment to public safety is so strong, and it was reaffirmed again this morning with another measure, that they said, County Fire, we know that you're short, and we know that we will backfill you at the end of the fiscal year. However, run as frugal as you can, and that's the commitment we feel is a huge message of trust to us, and we live within that to come in. And I can tell you, we are going to come in less than 5.7.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I think my question is for Rita, because it's money. I'm sorry. Okay, I just want to be really clear on the CalPERS, which if CalPERS can't be clear, I know it's hard for us. So when we do this add-in of the CalPERS cost, we owe that money regardless, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not just if we contract out, we owe it. Is it? Can you explain a little further, maybe? I know we hate this,
No.
but I think it's the clarification, and I think I need to hear it a few times to understand. Can we negotiate with them? I know CalPERS goes up and down like this all the time, no matter where we're at. So yeah, I took a picture of that building. Anyway, can you kind of go over maybe a little deeper into how this works, going each way with our Hemet Fire and if we can negotiate and get that out? And my other thing is the explanation of, am I right when we cut this, if you go to CAL FIRE and then we owe this amount of money, that's it, we don't owe it anymore, whereas with Hemet Fire, if we hired new people, they would be thrown into the CalPERS system, and this would exponentially grow this amount, correct?
Okay, let me start with the beginning of your question.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. If we were to contract out, the city is responsible for the PERS liability that's been incurred to the date of contracting out. So CalPERS tries to put that amount into an increase in our rate to make up that difference. So the estimate that they gave us was a rate increase. I forget how much the rate increase was, but it equated to a certain percentage of payroll, which was about $663,000. If you look at the information CalPERS gave us, they break it down, and there's about 19, their estimate that they used right now is about $19.5 million, I think, is the amount of the unfunded liability that they say we will owe if we were to contract out with Riverside County Fire, that we would owe for our employees up to this point. That's their best estimate. And so the rate is made of different components, but a part of that component is taking that $19.5 million that essentially is kind of frozen at that point. They say you owe $19.5 million, and they amortize it over a certain period of time. And in the estimate they gave me this time, they amortized it over 17 years, but subject to change for them. But that, and I know this is really complicated, there's a lot of moving parts, but essentially they're setting that part aside, and it would be paid off on the terms that they gave us over a 17-year period, and then it would stop growing. Now, if we don't contract out and we stay with Hemet Fire, yes, our rates are going to go up. They change. It's like a rolling amortization period, and they reevaluate them every year. And we are paying for that in our rate, our existing rate, and every year a portion of our rate with PERS for the fire department, a portion of that is for the unfunded liability calculated at that point in time. Does that help?
No, that does help. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's,
And we're not accruing any more liability for fire.
that's my big thing.
Yes.
Because I'm more of a,
Yes.
not this year, next year, but 5-10 years down
Right.
the road. Basically, we're cutting up the credit card.
Right, we're not, for fire.
Yeah.
At that point, if you were to contract out, you're not accruing any more liability for the fire department. You just owe from that point on,
Okay.
yes.
That's, okay, that's clear.
That point forward, excuse me.
That's very
Yes.
clear. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I think some of my other questions were answered that I wrote down and you answered. Okay. You're so good.
While you were there, while this is on. The years you've been here, have those CalPERS estimates increased every year?
Yes.
And you know off the top of your head what that percentage has been over the years?
The increase from 12-13 to 13-14 for safety is about a 4% increase. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's been anywhere from about 4% to maybe about 8%, depending. And our rates are going to go up. CalPERS, after 13-14, they're changing the way that they do a lot of their calculations. I mean, this will affect Riverside County Fire too. I mean, it'll affect everyone who's a PERS member, but we're going to see a lot of increases because of all the assumptions that CalPERS has made in the past that haven't come true. So why it's 4% this year, I'm sure it's going to be much steeper for 14-15.
Thank you.
Can I just tag on to that? So basically, we're doomed if we, or I should say damned if we do, and we're damned if we don't. We're never going to get away from CalPERS per se. It's just in a different form of, well, we're going to carry it on our books or we're going to carry it on an invoice.
Well, we're never legally obligated for it. It's like if you were to, but, I'm sure anyone that's doing business as a contractor is going to factor in all their cost into the contract, and that's what you're getting at, and that's true. But we won't be legally obligated for that. I mean, if we decide never to have fire, we wouldn't be responsible, but that's not realistic. We're going to have fire whether Riverside County provides it or the city.
Robert, may I ask one more question? And this, either, I guess, Chief Hawkins. See, he's writing, so I'm going to interrupt him.
Yes.
This is on your expertise. Is there any legal reason why municipalities in California cannot contract public safety with a private entity?
I have heard that statute forbids that. But if you were to ask me to produce statute that says yes or no, I don't know the section, but I believe it does exist. But not for EMS services.
But for fire?
I believe there's a section that forbids that. I've heard that, but I can honestly say, council member, that I've never personally researched it. I can't give you the statute number.
Okay.
Chief,
Yes.
Can I ask you, or maybe it's Mr. Fulcher, I'm going to go back to the money. I'm sorry.
Chief Fulcher better come back up here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going back to CalPERS, everybody's favorite subject. So, I guess for both of you, with your contract cities, when we say they're added into the cost of that contract, are we seeing, I mean, the CalPERS, am I right to understand that it's pretty much an ebb and flow? When it goes up in our city, then it's going to go up in the thing, and it's going to be about the same, correct? So the quotes that we're looking at now, if we're going to have a rise in our CalPERS, is it going to be even keel with the county as well?
I'm not an expert in CalPERS, and I don't know many people that are.
I don't even think CalPERS is.
So I can tell you that if it goes up, it's reflected in our personnel budget. However, if it goes down, it's also reflected in our personnel budget. And it's based on the estimates that CalPERS predicts. And it would be roughly the same for most agencies.
Roughly the same, okay. I'm sorry. I hate CalPERS.
And now Rita's going to have to clarify.
And I just wanted to add to that, in the past, before pension reform, PEPRA, there was a lot of variation between agencies because agencies would offer different plans. So that was another kind of wild card. Now with pension reform, everybody's kind of where they're at, and new employees are going to come in at this lower amount, and you are going to see more of a shift in unison, more or less.
More unison. Okay, that was my question.
Rita, if you could just, sorry, if you could stick around here for a minute. Okay, so you said on average you've seen with the CalPERS now anywhere between a 4 and 8% increase in our payment obligations at the city of Hemet, right?
Right,
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
That 4 to 8% increase, is that all inclusive? So in other words, folks that are currently active on the city of Hemet's roster and also folks that have since retired, is that all inclusive, or is that just for city workers now or just retirement workers?
It's our rate overall, which our rate overall includes a portion towards retirees, people that are already retired, and then also the normal amount, the payment that PERS estimates that we're going to owe for current employees. So it's 4% on top of the overall rate.
Okay. And then on one of the slides you had, you showed if you take a look at the 3 years, the total cost, there's a difference about $2.4 million cheaper to go with Riverside County. Now in year 3, you show that's decreased because now we start paying back the obligations on folks that were paid up until the point that the contract would be issued out.
Yes.
Okay. That difference, or that amount that you're showing, is that a payments plan, an amortization schedule that would be set up by CalPERS? So in theory, could we as a city, which they do that from time to time, go out for a bond, for example, to lower the rate or lower the payment amounts over time?
Yeah, there's a lot of cities that have essentially what we would have if we were to contract out, which would be a side fund, where this amount would go into this side fund and be amortized over a certain period of time. But there are a lot of cities that have gone out to essentially refinance it, because PERS right now, I think the interest that they factor into that is, I think it's either 7.25% or 7.5% right now. So you could, and many cities are refinancing that part of their PERS obligation that's in the side fund.
So we could, so we refinance, we can get a bond, we could do some form measure, but I assume we can also change the amortization schedule in terms of, instead of 17 years, for example, 30 years or 40 years. I assume that's also a possibility there, thus lowering the annual obligation and payments to the...
PERS, CalPERS, as I understand it, they don't offer a lot of flexibility that way.
No, but if we refinance.
But if we refinance and just took PERS out of it for that side fund, then that would depend on what kind of financing we set up.
Okay.
Can I follow? This is turning into a good conversation. I actually like this. With saying issuing a bond for the 19 million, whatever it is.
Right.
Is that really a realistic option for such a small amount of money? And can you mix your apples and oranges when you go out for bond funding to make it 100 million and use the rest of it on something else?
Something else, you mean other than pension?
Yes.
It would be specifically pension obligation bonds. You couldn't do that.
So is it cost effective to float bonds for 19 million? Is
It depends on what the interest rate is. If you think you could get it for lower than 7.5%, it would be. Some cities issued bonds before, and it turned out to be a bad decision. So,
Well, it'd just be like refinancing a home. You either get a better rate or you...
Right. Right.
Okay. Are you done?
No, go ahead.
Rita, this is for you. If both of us have CalPERS,
Yes.
and we both have the same formula is used, then wouldn't the cost be the same? Would there be?
We don't have the same formula. I think our rate right now is for 13-14 is like 42%, or will be, and I believe, Chief Fulcher, you can correct me if I have this wrong, but I think their rate right now is running at 30%. So there are differences in the overall plan rates. With pension reform now, everyone's you're kind of leveled off, but you still owe for whatever type of pension you were offering in the past.
And that's obligation in terms of payment obligations, the 42% with Hemet Fire and the 30% with CAL FIRE?
Well, the rates will change every year,
Right.
but at the current rate right now,
what is the percentage, I guess, I'm sorry?
42%.
What does the percentage represent?
It's
I missed that
percentage of payroll.
Okay, that's it.
Percentage, so you have to, our PERS payment for safety is 42% of safety payroll.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And that's determined by
PERS.
PERS.
Yeah.
Of course.
Chief Fletcher, is that correct? It's 30%. Thank you.
30.7.
Any other
I have
questions?
a question for... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Chief Hawkins. Recent contract that was negotiated with Riverside County and CAL FIRE for your employees, that's set to sunset when, 2016, 2015? I recall the date. They just had
It was 5 years from 2012, so it'd be 2017.
2017.
It was a five-year agreement. This is the first time that we've ever gone 5 years, and the county was very pleased to do that.
Gotcha. But it's 2017 then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Council.
Where would the closest truck come from if we were to need it within those?
Without counting the City of Hemet truck. It would come from our Menifee Lakes Fire Station 76 on Menifee, north of Newport.
Okay. And actually, does anybody have any more questions for Chief?
I might. Go ahead, if you had another one for him.
Well, I was going to, go ahead, because I was going to ask Chief Morris something. So go ahead while he's up there.
The closest station is Menifee, or what about the Homeland Station? Is that not closer to the west?
That's a closer station, but the question I understood from Councilmember Wright was the nearest truck company, ladder truck, and that would be Menifee Lakes. But we do have stations that are closer that would be Homeland 54 on Sultanas, north of the 74, Winchester, which is just a little bit west of downtown Winchester.
But they don't have a truck.
They
do not.
Okay. So Menifee's the closest ladder truck back.
It is.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief Morris, when we have EMD services available, wouldn't those additional costs of added personnel be extremely cost effective when it eliminates the improper dispatch? Because we all know that in itself is extremely expensive.
Yes, we did some research on data over the last 18 months, and we researched all of our call volumes for a period of 2 years, and we weeded out anywhere between 30 to 40% of calls that we go on, rolling 500 gallons code 3 to non-emergency calls. Now, there will be some operational savings if we are no longer rolling our engine companies or our truck code 3 to non-emergency medical aids. In the event we would have resource allocation, we would be sending AMR alone to a non-emergency call. If you notice recently, we had cross-staffed our truck company. In doing so, we realized over a $25,000 a year savings on fuel, tires, and maintenance out of the gate first year.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions?
No. Are you done?
Well, I had a question for Rita. Rita, on the slide, I just want to make sure I got clarification, and maybe Chief Morris can help out. So, in terms for emergency medical dispatch, the emergency state 911 will pay for the training and the equipment, but we would be responsible for the salaries for the dispatchers. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
And that increases from, we have 5, that one of them is not being used currently for that purpose, and it would change to 6, or would change, because you said 2 additional, is it changed to 7, or is it?
We currently have 5 dispatch stations, and my understanding from talking with the State 911 Commission is that the PD's basically using 4, and if they were to go through with this proposal that they've made us, that 5th one would have to be dedicated to EMS fire, and then the additional one that they would add would have to be used for that. So that would be a total of 6 stations.
6, okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions from council to other representatives?
Can I make a statement?
Yeah. If there's no other questions? Okay.
If you bear with me, I've been very frustrated with this whole situation. And this afternoon I typed all my frustration out, and you guys are going to be the recipient. Better service at reduced costs. That is indeed a deal made in heaven, and I hope we can achieve that. But no matter how you slice this issue, the City of Hemet cannot afford either the Hemet Fire Department or Riverside County CAL FIRE with our current fiscal picture. So no matter how we look at it, we have the cart before the horse. I've heard campaign speeches and rhetoric indicating no new taxes, down with unions, smaller government is the answer, transparency is necessary, yet conversations tend to indicate that contracting with one of the largest unions in the state of California and with the state of California itself is the answer, and minds are made up. Both entities run larger deficits than the City of Hemet, and in my opinion, are suspect with correct numbers. In this process, we would lose local control and accept a definite increase each year while not being able to sit at the table to negotiate any of the details. I believe this RFP process is flawed. We are pitting a city department against a giant state organization and allowing that organization to change its bid and levels of service on a weekly basis, all the while using the original numbers and staffing levels from Hemet Fire, not taking into account the firefighters offered to continue their pay reduction and using EMD staffing level costs that are inflated top step, fully burdened employee rates. We are doing things wrong. We are confronted with escalating crime levels, so we decide we need to contract out the fire department. We hire a consultant at a cost of $300,000 plus, but we don't look at or follow his recommendations. We hire a well-educated public and private sectors experienced city manager and economic development guru and really haven't allowed him to do his job. We have a lack of trust from the business community and the citizens, a dwindling, demoralized, overworked staff, public safety departments ready to implode, and have lost the best choice for the next city manager by assuming that he's not going anywhere. Putting personal agenda ahead of public benefit and stooping to a new low in unethical behavior by personal attacks and accusations of criminal conduct against fellow council members and private citizens without any basis in fact sets a precedent never heard of in local political arenas. We must listen to the citizens, but we also must lead and make smart decisions that are the best for our city and only our city. We need a 5-year budget and a plan to get this city moving because we have moved nowhere but sideways and down in the last 5 years. We have to prioritize the issues facing our city and develop plans to solve those problems. We must allow city staff to do the jobs they were hired to do. Stability at City Hall and in our police and fire departments is essential and must start now. I would very much like to propose that we take the advice of the people, take the RFP off the table, and set a round table, a work study, a town hall, an ad hoc, whatever type of a meeting to figure out how we can find the revenue and the resources to afford the services our citizens demand. Thank you for bearing with me.
I'll second that.
Okay, folks, thank you.
And that's my frustration level.
Okay, at this time, we do have folks that wish to speak on item number 19. The first one is a video, Emily Quas Madonna. So after that gets queued up. No, but first. Yeah. Go ahead.
Can I have this mic? Can I have this mic?
What's that?
It's a big stack, so I'll try to look for it, okay? I'll do my best.
You hold that off, Mr. Mayor. Can I make a comment, please?
Yeah.
I need a microphone here, please. Great, thank you. Today it came to my attention that there will be members of the public or a member of the public that chooses to show a video that claims that I used an expletive in a meeting. And I'm here to tell you that I did not, I do not. The people that know me, the people that I work with, the people that know me personally realize that that's language I would never, ever use. So I saw this video and I wanted to be reminded of exactly what I did say. And the things that I'd said to the mayor in an open mic situation, I'd repeat to the public. I had nothing to hide or nothing to say. What I did say is this situation is fouled up, and people are interpreting that as me using an expletive. That did not happen. I do not speak that way, and I deny that. People can believe what they want to believe, and there's nothing I can do about that, but those are the facts.
Thank you. And, sir, can we make sure we reset Emily's clock?
Mayor Youssef, council members.
Sir, wait, just a moment. Please let...
Am I on here?
Okay. Emily, go ahead. Oh, sorry. 6 minutes.
During the meeting that was held here on February 26th, I got a text from an at-home viewer alerting me to a open mic moment between Mayor Youssef and Mayor Pro Tem Smith. And I've listened to it over and over and over. And now all of you can listen to it as well. If you can roll that, please.
It's a big stack, so I'll try to look for it, okay? I'll do my best.
Eric said to me there were so many factual errors in that business.
Well,
When did he have a budget surplus? We kicked in $200,000 from that.
it's our fault for letting it.
That got out in public. It was really reflective.
Why that information should be withheld from the public. Mayor Pro Tem Smith, I want to know what and whose plan did that information F up? The conclusion I draw from that exchange is that a plan to railroad this process in favor of CAL FIRE was predetermined prior to the fire bids being presented. And this footage appears as evidence of that collusion.
In terms of letting it out, I believe you said that Eric said there were flaws in the presentation, and that Larry said that we actually kicked in $200,000 to offset the difference.
Right.
And so that's saying the flaw was being let out or factually incorrect.
Oh, so it wasn't that you didn't want people to know.
No. Can I respond, sir? Emily, I made the statement that said that got out in the public, and here was my concern, is during Joe's presentation, he talked about a surplus in his department. I wasn't clear whether he meant a surplus in his department or whether a surplus in our budget, because there are those in the community that believe that this city has a budget surplus. We may have a reserve that's completely separate from a budget surplus. My concern was when the word surplus was used, that the public, and apparently they did, would make the assumption that it was a budget surplus. Reviewing the tape, understanding the circumstances of the situation, now knowing what Joe was referring to, he was referring to his department.
Right.
I, like everybody else, was looking for clarification. And so anything I said to the mayor, I was hiding nothing I would say to anybody in public at any time. I was just as concerned a month ago about the information. And I think, and Linda said earlier, that there are some components that appear to be flawed. And so I firmly believe that this process was getting fouled up, and that's exactly what I said. Now, people can believe that or not, but that's exactly what I said. So.
Well, thank you for making that crystal clear for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Patty Woods. Patty, you'll have 6 minutes.
I'm hoping that you took notice of the email I sent you guys and Mr. Bradley, the city manager, a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't know that for a fact, though, because none of you have responded to me at all, either with a call or an email, which for a public official, that's a little disappointing. I'm sure you took notice of the article in the Press Enterprise about the city of Moreno Valley and their rising costs of the county contracted services beyond the affordability of their city budget and the need for them to reduce their police force by 25 deputies and the closure of a fire station, thus reducing their public safety and further risking the residents to their city. Another article was also recently published whereas the city of Wildemar is facing increased costs to safety, and that's another city contracted with the county. There's countless more if you just do a quick little Google search on increasing county costs. I've yet to hear anyone from CAL FIRE speak truthfully in public or even address the dispatch fee that I talked about last month that's being assessed to every contract city for each call that's dispatched to them. Have they talked to you about it? The fee of $65 a call with a call volume of $13,000 a year, or 13,000 calls a year, that alone increases your contract by about $1 million. Isn't that the difference between the two contracts? Or is that transparency too much to disclose? Or is that better with a closed mic condition? This is deeply concerning, knowing that you're considering entering into a relationship with the same agency that's financially destroying other cities. This decision has a potential to permanently change and destroy the makeup of our city. It's not our city's responsibility to shoulder the county's financial burden that they're unable to handle on their own. If you read the article that I sent you, I actually copied it onto the message. It clearly stated that the significant problem the city was facing is a reality that a contract city does not control the contract cost. You won't get firefighters or police officers willing to accept pay cuts to maintain acceptable levels of service, as you currently have enjoyed with Hemet Fire and Hemet Police. Most recently, even 2 weeks ago, when Hemet Fire offered generously to extend their 5% pay cut, which you didn't even acknowledge to them in the public meeting. I heard your campaign in the fall all about transparency, and that if elected, you would ensure increased transparency. Sound familiar at all? I'm wondering where the transparency was in the video just last month that was played here when you only included propaganda that was in support of your agenda. And I'm also wondering why you withheld information that could actually inform the viewers of the reality of the increasing cost and the loss of control. I noticed who you handpicked to talk, and I noticed who you left out. The residents of Hemet deserve better than this. We deserve to hear the truth, not a fabricated fairy tale from 4 people that stand up and give us a sales pitch. A flawed one at that. Our 100-year-old fire department has served our city well, and they deserve your support. They don't deserve to have you shopping around for a better deal today that will end up costing the residents more in the long run. Mr. Youssef, Mr. Smith, and Ms. Moline, you need to resign. You are not serving the city
Ms.
well.
Woods, please keep it to the topic.
I am addressing the city. I'm addressing the city, and I'm referencing the 3 of you. You are here to serve the residents, and serving outside interests are not serving the residents of the city. You need to resign.
Chief Hawkins, she brings up a good question. Can you please discuss the dispatch fee? I said that's included through all the cities.
Yes, again, please, council member, the question.
Ms. Woods brought up about the added dispatch fee for each call that would be in excess to the contract charge.
No, it's included in the contractual amount, and it's about $43 per call.
So
explain. And it's included.
So it's included?
Yes.
So based off of what, like whatever you estimate is how many calls the city of Hemet has?
Yes, we base our dispatch fees off of how many stations and how many incidents typically a jurisdiction runs.
So the proposed number that you gave us includes that dispatch fee?
Absolutely.
What if it goes over your estimate?
There's no additional charge.
Okay. Thank you.
Chief, whatever goes under.
Excuse me?
What if there's a reduction in calls and they go under? Is there
Then
any-
the rate goes down the next year.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
There we are. In the Exhibit A.
Yes.
I've always wanted to.
I may have to go back and get my copy, okay?
This is Exhibit A. There is, in the area of estimated support services, calls, there's 2 lines. One is ECC support based on calls and station basis, which in this particular one is $377,510. And then right below that, it's, I assume it means communication IT support. It's COMM/IT.
Yes, that is correct.
For calls, station basis, and that's $656,876. Now, are you referring to the combination of those two, or each one individually as a cost per call?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let me show it to you. Because it's confused. Yeah, approach the bench. Okay, these 2 right here. Both of them stipulate that it's calls per station. Okay. If we can get back to me or to the city manager with that?
We can, you bet.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Gene Heichel, and Gene, you'll have 10 minutes.
I would appreciate it if Paul Rather would go first.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Raver, 10 minutes, followed by Gene Heichel for 10 minutes.
Mayor, members of the council, Larry. As is my custom, I have studied tonight's agenda in great detail, particularly item 19. After having done so, there is but one acronym that I feel appropriately describes the staff report. FUBAR. For those who have not been in the service, that roughly translates into fouled up beyond all recognition. Or words to that effect. You've been there. Yeah. I'm not going to cover all the details as to why I think FUBAR is applicable, but I would like to point out one very distressing aspect, and that's when your staff base their comparisons on the original bids that were submitted, rather than the bids, which were significantly higher, that were agreed to by everyone, both parties, at the February 26th meeting. Very significant difference. If you compare the current bid to the February 26th agreed to numbers by all parties, the difference is not for option 1, 116,000 plus, but $544,000 plus. For option 2, the difference is not $275,000 plus, but $703,000 plus. I submit to you that anyone who cuts their budget by that amount of money is doing damage to their budget. I suggest to you that after all the mishmashing that's gone on, all these changes, it is not surprising that 2 agencies striving for the same objective have at long last come up with a winner for CAL FIRE. That is despicable. Absolutely despicable, if not dishonest. what is particularly aggravating is that we don't have to go through all this. We don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on litigation. We don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on recall. We don't have to destroy this city. We just have to work together. I believe, and Robert and I 2 years ago talked about working together and coming to some kind of a solution. I believe if we work together, we can find a win-win proposition for everyone. We don't need to put ourselves through this, in our community, through this kind of stress. It is simply uncalled for. We want this city to succeed. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the Public Safety Coalition reaches out its hand in friendship and wants to work as an ally in resolving this economic issue that we all face. This is not just your problem to be burdened by you alone. It's a community-wide problem. And I know there are many qualified people in this town who would like to work with you and solve this problem. I'm proposing that the committee that has been suggested look at all options. Look at all of them. That we come back and report to you and the community our findings, pros and cons on all of them. I know there are some that some of you have sworn not to agree to, and I understand that. But if after explaining to the community what the options are, what the pros and cons are, if they say they are willing to do item C, then let's support them. If it takes a measure to be put on the ballot to accomplish that objective, then let's support them. Our goal is to save our police and fire department for the sole and exclusive purpose of saving lives and securing our respective security. We are a neighborhood. We should be a team. We should work together. I extend my hand in friendship and cooperation. I sincerely hope that you will end this course you're on now and choose an alternative course that will help bring this community together. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Jean? And then following Jean will be Christy Munt.
Mayor Youssef, Pro Tem Mayor Larry Smith, and council members. My name is Gene Heichel. I live in the city of Hemet, and I have a resolution asking you to choose Hemet Fire Department for our fire services. It is signed by 212 people. The people are speaking loud and clear. Keep Hemet Fire Department. I originally started with 183. We added 29 tonight, and I'd like to give this to the city clerk. Today we are arguing about cutting the cost of fire services by outsourcing those services to CAL FIRE. By doing this, you hope to save a small amount of money. This action will have major long-term consequences. This is an example of being penny wise but pound foolish. There is no competition for fire services. You do not have 3 or 4 bids. The only competition to the county is Hemet Fire Department. If you contract with the county, HFD will be dismantled and there will only be one provider for fire services for the city. The county will have complete control over all future costs and quality of fire services in the city. Our only alternative will be to contain costs by reducing services. We will have to pay the cost set by the county. You have the facts. There is no significant benefit to contracting with CAL FIRE. There is little, if any, savings. You are not improving savings. Now is the time to move forward. Give Hemet Fire Department a vote of confidence. Restore their morale. Thank CAL FIRE for their proposal, and let's get on with the business of building a strong, vibrant city. Now is the time for leadership, not personal agendas. We need to stop the bleeding and put all options on the table for revitalizing Hemet. We need a plan that will address the future. Hemet has many problems. It has a high crime rate, a weak economic base, many social problems, and a city government that does not have the funds to provide even the basic needs of the city. We recommend you look to the future and begin to address these issues. One of the more pressing issues is crime and the inability of the city to meet the criteria of Measure C for fire response time. We suggest you form a committee composed of citizens and council members to look at the real cost of fire and police over the next 5 years. This committee needs to consider the realistic revenues available for public safety and the real cost of services necessary to adequately protect all citizens of Hemet. This committee should look at all options with respect to both cost and services. We believe Hemet deserves adequate police and fire protection that protects all the residents. Today, Hemet is at a fork in the road. It can continue the path that it has followed over the last couple of years and continue to cut services to, quote, live within its budget. We've all seen the results of this path: reduced tax revenues, high crime, no jobs, and cheap housing. Or we can take the path that makes an investment into our future and develop a plan to revitalize Hemet and make it a place where we all want to live, work, and play. A place where our tax money is spent in the community. Business and industry sees Hemet as a desirable place to locate. Our citizens have good jobs. The poor have services so they do not have to resort to crime. And we have reasonably priced housing for all of our residents. Which path are you going to choose? Tonight, we ask you to restore confidence in the Hemet Fire Department and stop this insane direction to contract with CAL FIRE. We ask you to address the high crime and response time for fire by directing staff to bring a proposal forward to create a Citizens Advisory Committee. This committee must be transparent and puts all options on the table to make recommendations to adequately provide police and fire services. Now is the time to put this mess behind us and start building up this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Christy Munt, followed by Diane Moffett.
Hello, Mayor, council members. My name is Christy Munt, and I am Community Outreach Chair for the Democrats of Hemet San Jacinto. And I am here tonight to present a resolution from Democrats of Hemet San Jacinto in keeping Hemet Fire. And the resolution goes as follows. Whereas the difference between the cost of Hemet Fire and CAL FIRE will not significantly affect the city's general fund, whereas if the city contracts with CAL FIRE, there will be limited control over the cost of fire services, whereas the city of Hemet will be turning over millions of dollars in fire equipment to CAL FIRE with no remuneration, whereas service provided by Hemet Fire and CAL FIRE are very similar. I'm going to skip the next one because we now know Station 3 will remain open. Whereas now a mutual aid agreement between Hemet Fire Department and other fire departments, including CAL FIRE, provides firefighters and equipment to handle large-scale emergencies. Whereas through the mutual aid program, Hemet Fire has helped other fire agencies more than it has received help. Whereas Hemet Fire has an inexpensive plan to put EMT program in place, whereas the City Council has turned down grant money for Hemet Fire Department, and whereas Hemet Fire Department is local and understands the needs of our community. Be it resolved that the Democrats of Hemet San Jacinto ask the Hemet City Council to choose Hemet Fire to provide fire services for its residents of Hemet. This resolution was adopted by the members of Democrats of Hemet San Jacinto at our regular March 14th meeting 2013. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Moffett, and you'll have 6 minutes, followed by Terry Straubinger.
Thank you, Council. Forgive me, I'm not accustomed to public speaking, so I'm going to do my best here. My letter pretty much parrots Ms. Krupa's letter, so it's kind of bizarre. In the last several years, the citizens of Hemet have noticed an unprincipled method in the way decisions are made within City Council. We're learning from whom you take your orders and who you will ultimately benefit from it. And this does not bode well with us. The very people that trusted you and facilitated your second chance to fix Hemet now seek to recall you. Your blatant disregard to hear and consider their ideas and desires in seeking betterment of our community has led to substantial suspicion and unrest among the citizens. Our first concern is that City Council has lost the ability to get things done. The divisive nature of the current council must change or be recalled. It is not unusual to disagree on various issues, however, as evidenced in the replacement of Councilmember Linda Krupa on the RCA committee with an unfamiliar Shelley Milne, whose residency requirements are still being investigated, and the subsequent allegations of Councilmember Krupa disclosing confidential information and claims of collusion with Tammy Wilhelm has shown that you, Mr. Yosef, have clearly lost sight of the common goal and have resorted to underhanded and juvenile retaliation tactics.
Ms. Moffett, please address the council in regards to item number 19.
This is number 19. Another concern is the performance of City Council majority in the handling of interim council. I'll skip that. Regarding Mark Orm. Collectively, we were dismayed that the city hired a consultant to manipulate the outsourcing of our fire and police services, paying him an outrageous salary when council claims we're facing a $2.5 million deficit. While we understand the dynamics of the power of the majority, we do not understand the wasting of that power on something as seemingly unnecessary in the long term as replacing the highly competent city manager, Mark Orm. Your unwillingness to meet with Chamber of Commerce to discuss your flagrant decision-making regarding Ms. Milne's appointment to RCA committee showed great arrogance and total disregard in their efforts to come
Ms.
together
Moffett, I'll
as
ask
a
that you
community.
please stick to the subject of 19 unless you want to move it to public comments.
Well, it sort of falls in line with what everyone else has been saying. Okay, well, let's finish up with this. Last and most importantly, council needs to look to the state in efforts to readdress the impact that AB 109 has had on our valley and demand our legislators to take the necessary steps to remedy the crime, drugs, prostitution, homeless, panhandlers, rundown dwellings growing at alarming rates in Hemet. It is time for the Council of Three to stop taking their orders from the fat cats that will soon be a bad and fading memory in District
Ms.
3.
Moffett, your time has expired. Thank you.
No, I don't think so.
Ms.
If you're not
Moffett,
able to, I'm just about done. If you're not able to stand on your own and make favorable and informed decisions for the benefit of the people of Hemet, then there is no choice but to take that back which was given to you in error and commence a recall. Thank you.
Can we turn on Councilperson Krupa's mic, please?
Thank you. I just would like to say to everyone that while I appreciate the people championing, I can't say that word, quote, in my corner for the RCA appointment, that appointment was the mayor's appointment. And I do appreciate it. We have worked through this, and I really hope the RCA appointment and all the dialogue is going to be put to rest real soon. Thank you.
Terry, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
In light of the fact that you, the City Council, have received a letter from the attorneys representing the Public Safety Coalition, I respectfully request that you take heed of what they are saying. There will be serious consequences should you decide to go with CAL FIRE and not support our local fire department. According to the City Council, the RFPs were done to see if it would be cost effective to change. Given the fact that going forward with this endeavor would involve massive legal expenses to defend, legal costs to be repaid, possible litigation if CAL FIRE does not meet Measure C requirements, and the added expenses the city will incur if the community goes forward with a recall of the infamous Council 3. There is also the distinct probability that CAL FIRE will increase costs at a later date as they have done in other cities nearby. This most definitely would not save the city money. Therefore, I am urging you to stay with our local fire department and end this nonsense. There are much more important issues for you to attend to, like the very serious crime problem and cleaning up of this city, so that new businesses might actually want to locate here. Please let us put this outsourcing idea behind us and get on with the business of making this community a better place to live and work.
Thank you, Terry. Daryl Woods. And Daryl will have 3 minutes. And followed by Mr. Woods will be Mitzi Carver.
Council, thank you. I live here in Hemet. I had a bunch of stuff written down tonight, and I just kind of let it go after hearing all the comments from a lot of the people. I moved to this city back in 1999. I moved out of the county area to the city. I thought I was moving to a city that was going to grow. And it was at that time. We were seeing a lot of growth in housing. We were seeing businesses move into the city of Hemet. And I thought, wow, this is where I could raise my children and maybe even retire here. Then the council changed. We stopped going after businesses. Times got tough. I get that. I work for a fire department. Times have been tough. But then we've cut our fire department, we've cut our police department to a point where they're barely covering what they need to cover. And there's money there, but the council of old and the council of new have not gone after that money, and they've turned that money away. What I'm asking you guys to do is give up on CAL FIRE, stay with the city of Hemet. That's what we need. That's what the citizens want. Stay with Hemet PD. That's what the citizens want. Fund them properly. Go after every single funding source possible, whether it be federal grants, whether it be state grants, whatever it may be, and get that money in here and fund them. Get the paramedic program up and going. You've sat on that for 4 years. You hired these paramedics 4 or 5 years ago. You could have had them 4 or 5 years ago, and you sat on it. A shame on you guys. A shame on you guys. I am a paramedic. I know what paramedics can do. They can save lives. But no, this city has chose to abandon that. Now you're wanting to go with CAL FIRE. And there's a lot of good guys with CAL FIRE. But they're in the hole budget-wise. The state is a mess. The county is a mess. We'll lose all control, and the cost will go up. And I have to dispute the cost of the $43. That might be what it's going to be now, but what happens when the contract expires? What's that go up to? All the costs are going to go up, and you guys will have no control, and you will have given everything away that this city has.
30 seconds, Mr. Woods.
So I'm asking you to do the right thing to save the city a lot of turmoil, to where we don't have to go after a recall, to where we don't have to file all these legal things, and just get on with making this city safer and getting businesses back into this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mitzi Carver, followed by Ray Fonseca.
Thank you, Council, and members of the community that are here. I've been a resident of Hemet for 20 years, and I enjoy it here. It's my city. I love it. And I'm thinking if we have spent $208,000 on a consultant, Andy Hall, to let us know what we're hearing here, that we have a good city fire department, keep it. We reorganized it. We followed those recommendations. That way, money well spent. To now change that and move on to something else, now it's money thrown away. Also, I've heard the statistics that in, I believe, the last year, Hemet City Fire has needed the county's help 14 times. The county has needed the city's help 51 times. Who needs who? I have a friend in San Jacinto, and in hearing her mayor speak in the city, she verified to me that yes, their prices and their cost has gone up in the county for their fire service. And the last thing, couple last things, in driving around our city, I applaud our city council that streets are being taken care of. I appreciate that. And when I get onto a bumpy street, I look over and gosh darn, it's a green city sign. That shows me what the county really thinks of Hemet, and I think we should keep our city fire. And as other people have said, I think it's time to accept that it's best with our Hemet City Fire and move on. What we need are jobs. What we need is this economy to be built up. And the Press Enterprise had a great article about how 5 Points, California has a grant to take sugar beets and make ethanol. We can grow sugar beets, and heaven knows we've got a lot of manure in this valley that we can use. So, I ask you to please look into what it's going to take to bring jobs, and let's build ethanol. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carver. Ray Fonseca, followed by C.W. Checky.
Good evening, Councilmen and ladies. My name is Ray Fonseca. I'm a citizen of Hemet. I've been here about 45 years. I've never seen a recall in this town, nor have I seen so many citizens rise in this kind of occasions. At any rate, I'm here to let you know I rise in support of the police department, which I think is one of the finest anywhere in California, and also our fire department, who has been so loyal for so many years. I rise in favor of them. The real basic thing I want to say is that if council chooses to represent us here in Hemet, they should live in Hemet and not in a shell house. And not only that, but you guys need to listen to the people. You need to listen to the citizens of Hemet who don't want that change that you guys want to perpetrate through Mr. Jeff Stone and his workers. After all, some of the people here have worked for Jeff Stone, and it looks like he's got an agenda to destroy our town and dismantle it. And I don't think we should allow that. And you guys should be loyal to our town and loyal to the people of this town who will vote you out. Think about it. Stop this madness. You already hire an expert who recommended against dismantling the police department and the police department. Brian Nakamura just left a little bit ago. He recommended against it. You got rid of a real intelligent individual, Norm, Mark, and brought somebody who's retired and doesn't give a darn about our city and worked for Jeff Stone. So, you know, think about it. The gig's up. We know what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. C.W. Checky, followed by James Pendergrass. Pengrazi. Okay. All right, Mr. Kaufman, go ahead and come up then. You'll have 6 minutes.
I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council members. I want to thank you for the service as a volunteer group of citizens willing to put yourselves and your families on the front line in an effort to help the city and the residents have a future and a better way of life. I want to personally thank you for bringing CAL FIRE down to explain to the Hemet citizens what CAL FIRE has to offer their city. I've been asked to read this letter on behalf of many frightened senior citizens that appreciate the courage that you have shown in standing up to the opposition and defiance of certain groups who lack the best interest of our city. I asked some of the seniors why they don't come down and voice their opinions in person, and over they expressed the fear of intimidation and retaliation by angry people and the union supporters.
Folks, please let him speak. Give the same courtesy to your fellow community members. Thank you.
I have come to 2 city council meetings and have personally witnessed senior citizens verbally attacked, and one of them threatened with physical harm by a much younger supporter of Hemet Fire, simply because of their opinion. Now, whether the person was a Hemet firefighter, a supporter of organized labor, or even a citizen of Hemet, Hemet seniors should be able to express their opinions without being bullied or belittled by other citizens.
Please let him speak. Okay.
You tell me. I don't know what the deal is.
Do you have anything on 19?
19 being?
About the fire department.
Okay. All right. I'll speak about that. I am in favor of the city council doing whatever it takes to save and make money in this city so that we, if it means slashing wherever, the fire department, whatever, going with CAL FIRE. If we can get a better deal with CAL FIRE, let's go with CAL FIRE. Because in the end, 10 years down the road, we're looking at a bad situation in this city where we're going to need new cops. And if we can cut the budget and do what it takes to get whatever, anybody in here, to cut the budget so we can get more police in here, I'm in favor of that. My brother and sister are both LA sheriffs, a lieutenant and a sergeant, so I understand contracting out the city to other organizations. I come from a cop family. I understand that stuff. I'm also a Teamster, a union member, so I understand what's going on here when it comes to the intimidation tactics of these people. And I understand that the mayor has been threatened, and some of the city council people up here have been threatened over this situation with trying to figure out which way we want to go with the fire department.
I believe he's talking about 19. Folks, please let him speak.
This is the kind of intimidation that I'm talking about, that you can't stand up here and say something. Mr. Mayor, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. Do you have anything on specifically to the contracting options here with the fire department? If not, we can move it to public comments.
Yeah, I say go with whatever you people think. I hear people say, oh, there's 200 signatures to have you thrown out of here. That's 0.2% of the 80,000 people that make up the Hemet population. These people that try to intimidate you and talk about the fire department being the only way to go only represents 0.2% of the population of this city. I ask you people to stand firm and make a just decision of whatever you think is for the best of this city, whether it's CAL FIRE. And I really want to thank CAL FIRE for coming down, because they've been absolutely disrespected by a lot of the people in this room. Sometimes I think it's a bad episode of Jerry Springer. So please, give these people the opportunity.
Folks, let him speak. He is speaking on 19. You had just as many times to come up and talk about recalls. He's gearing on 19. Let him speak.
So now that I've been completely talked over, which is usually their tactic, I have nothing further to say, but thank you, and do the best jobs that you can, because the citizens, not the 2%, not the 0.2% that are here yelling at you people tonight, the real citizens, the thousands of people that voted you in, do not be intimidated because you are looking at another fire department. Do not be intimidated because you are trying to do what's best for this city of safety. I got 1 more minute, and I intend to stand up here and use it, whether you people like it or not. Fire departments should be worked with safety, and I understand after I brought my grandparents here in '74, I had no idea that we don't have paramedics. All this time, I found out 2-3 weeks ago, and now the citizens of this city are screaming, no paramedics. Where have they been since 1974? These people over here, CAL FIRE, as I understand, has that. If we can save a few $1 million with CAL FIRE, I say go with CAL FIRE. I say do what it takes to make money for this city.
30 seconds, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you very much. And stand firm against the intimidation and the tactics that they use, Mr. Mayor, like what happened in front of the Bank of America. When I see all these people, and I know, I'm going to say it anyways, whether you people like it or not. The fix is in. Yeah, I know what the fix is in, and I know why people are pissed off in this city. And it's not about you three up there.
Mr. Kaufman, your time has expired.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. James Pangrazi, followed by Scott Garrett. Mr. Pangrazi, you'll have 3 minutes, followed by 3 minutes to Mr. Scott Garrett. I see fire. It says fire. Option 3, fire. I assume this is for option 19, right? I see.
Yes, Jim Pangrazi from San Jacinto. On the option 3, it's pretty well dead, but I think there's something you guys ought to know because it puts the credit of credibility where it belongs. It was said that when you were going to close Station 3, if you adopted option 3, that you can use Cottonwood Fire Station. Nobody, I repeat, nobody negotiated any deal with the city of San Jacinto like Lori Van Asdale asked of you guys. I know, I checked around, and as often as you've been down to the city council, which is not, real lot, Robert, you know I go there every time, and I know the people there and know who to talk to. Both the city manager and the assistant city manager said there was never no negotiations. That fire station was paid by the city of San Jacinto, not Riverside County or Hemet. The fire truck was paid by San Jacinto. Yes, there's CAL FIRE personnel in there, but they're all paid for by San Jacinto taxpayers. So why somebody volunteers us to take your place of Station 3 without even talking to anybody is beyond me. That's what I want to get across to you.
Thank you, James. Mr. City Manager, real quick, if I can address. Now, I know option 3 is no longer included in the CAL FIRE proposal, but just to speak on the option 3, was there any contact with San Jacinto in terms of the city manager or council members?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not at the city manager level.
At the city manager. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, Scott Garrett, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Scott Garrett. Do you need my address or no?
That's good.
Okay. Just a couple of points. One is I was here a month ago when you had the meeting, and CAL FIRE made a big issue of no negotiation, and I think the ability to negotiate is priceless. as the city council or as the fire department has been willing to adjust their contract to adjust to our needs, I think that that's something to give that up is like I say, you can't put a value on it. You give it up forever, and I think it's something that we shouldn't give up. And so we can negotiate a lot of these differences. The difference between CAL FIRE and Hemet is small, and you really need to think of that difference as that's what you're selling the fire department for. It looks like it's around $200,000 or $300,000. Once you get to year 3 and everything gets adjusted, it's a very small difference. Some of that might be able to get negotiated out, and the other is it's just too small a difference to give up. And the other thing that Councilmember Krupa addressed and has been brought up, this doesn't address our structural imbalance. It does nothing to our structural imbalance. And to give all this up and not address that, that's what I think this gentleman who spoke before, saying let's come together and let's deal with that issue. And then if we need to get rid of fire, we can get rid of fire. But we've got the cart before the horse. That's it. So I think that let's deal with our structural imbalance and don't give up the ability to negotiate.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, that's all I have for 19. At this time, we'll move to the public comment section.
I had a slip in.
Yeah, I got you down for public comments. At this time, we'll move to public comments. At this time, we'll ask for anyone else to speak something that's not on the agenda may do so at this time. When speaking, please do so in an orderly manner, and do not make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks to any members of the body, staff, or the general public. I will call on you. Excuse me. Well, there was no direction given. At this time, it was just an update. The mayor, I'll call you guys at that time for the appropriate time. At this time, Bob Jungluth for public comments, followed by Tammy Wilhelm.
Good evening. I guess I made an error not addressing this with the fire department, but then I'll go on. My wife and I retired in Hemet in 1994. We were tired of fighting the cold weather in our home in Nebraska. We bought a home in the senior community of Hemet del Sol, which comprises 287 homes. About 4 years ago, Hemet started a downhill spiral that got worse as the years passed. In our homeowners association, we used to have block parties, and the people would visit with their neighbors. Our residents walk early in the morning and the evening. They still do, but they often walk now in groups. Why? Because Hemet has lost its feeling of a secure place to live now. Our neighbors still talk over the fence or stop when they walk in their groups, but their conversations now are not about their children or their doctor visits. But I heard you're going to have panorama products, security bars put on your windows and your security doors installed. I think I may have to have that done soon. That's the conversation you're hearing in the senior community. They're not safe. I also think it's time for the voters to demand a city council budget be placed every year for the voters to approve or disapprove that reflects the cost of our city council's expenditures and some of the perks we are paying for. In closing, your city manager remarked at the last library meeting how the city had gotten rid of animal control to Ramona. What a joke. The residents of this city are paying for something they cannot or never will have with Ramona. It's even worse than when Riverside County provided this service. If you have a barking dog or a dog loose in your neighborhood and it's after 5, they're closed. There's nobody there. You can call all night. You have to wait till tomorrow. What about Saturday or Sunday? A dog is chasing children. Sorry about that. Ramona is not open on Saturday or Sunday. If the city manager thinks that's a good contract, he should be replaced. This contract is really a ripoff, and the service it supplies or lack of it is a ripoff. In closing, I want to notice that our fire chief stood up here and made his own representation and had all the knowledge he needed for every question, and he didn't need 4 or 5 backups from the county.
Tammy, followed by CW. Jackie.
I believe I had 6 minutes.
You're all right.
Thank you. Recently, the Valley Chronicle recently ran a series of articles I am compelled to address. First, I am guilty of no wrongdoing, none whatsoever. Councilmember Krupa has never shared with me anything of a confidential nature. I, nor we, are contriving in any way to bankrupt the RCA. This said, it is time for this City Council and this community to step up and understand what is at stake here. Long before any of you were considering public office, the multi-species plan was implemented. The City of Hemet tried to demand exclusion as a member city because we were the city who would suffer the most from it. The county blackmailed the city by threatening to withhold Measure A funds if we didn't sign on. The multi-species plan is, simply stated, a deal made between Riverside County and the Wildlife Agencies to set aside over 150,000 acres of private property. Not public, private property, in exchange for the county to more easily process transportation projects. In other words, they have already de facto taken 150,000 acres of private property, and thousands of citizens have no idea the land they are paying taxes on, the land that has been their home for generations, or the land they thought would be the next regional job center for the community is part of this grand scheme. But let's get to the core of the problem. When the RCA was set up to manage the acquisition of land under the multi-species plan, funding was a mandated requirement. I am guilty, but not of the charges leveled. I'm guilty of attempting to expose that the RCA is already broke. They have been operating since their inception, absent adequate funding required for them to even be allowed to exist. And here's where I want you and the public to pay close attention. Because Congress won't fund them, they can't afford to buy all the property they're required to buy, even at half the market value. To protect their own agency, they are abusing their authority, bankrupting property owners, or forcing upon them extraordinary circumstances. Many owners have nearly lost everything to bankruptcy trying to fight a powerful government agency, while council members have sat silent, ignorant of the plight of your constituents. Councilmember Krupa had finally served long enough to start seeing beyond the veil when she was replaced. Of course, the RCA staff would tell you, or your new appointee, that Tammy Wilhelm, Ed Sauls, and any council member unwilling to support their unconscionable behavior is trying to damage them or bankrupt them, or that I'm trying to earn a living on a contrived cottage industry. They do not want to deal with me because I am on the side of the citizens you represent. I am on your side, but I am their worst nightmare. I have no conflict. After over 100 years, my family no longer owns any property on the West End. I am not a partner to any property owner or developer on the West End. Our family's generational home was bullied away from us. It was not a fair deal at any price. I didn't want to sell it. I had no choice. Some property owners gratefully pay me to fight for them. Others I help pro bono because they can't afford the fight. Riverside County needs the multi-species plan. Hemet does not. So then, is it any wonder, during the tenuous debate over RFPs and my public position against contracting services, that the county would support RCA's contrived conclusion and attempt to see it spoon-fed to the public? Linda Krupa and I came to know each other because she ran for council. Our relationship is professional, and we are friendly because we share the same love for our community and the values that drive us to protect and defend it. If there is any implied conflict in such a meeting of the minds, I only pray that one day all of you will be labeled this same way. Mr. Mayor, I deserve an apology, a clear, concise, and very public one. Clearer than the one I almost got in the Valley Chronicle's sequel. Because the only reason the public might assume a conflict of interest between Linda Krupa and myself exists is because the speculation was planted knowingly or unknowingly. Thank you.
Tammy, yeah, I do believe that the context of my conversation with Charlie Han was taken out of context. I was discussing that there is a perceived conflict of interest within the community. However, was not trying to impugn or accuse you in terms of your integrity, or you, Linda. So I apologize for that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
C.W. Checky. Followed by, and I apologize, Stanley, is it Hildahl? I apologize about the last name.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, I'm C.W. Checky with the Hemet Taxpayers Association. As I see it, this firefighter quarrel is of two unions. One, a state union who lives off of our property tax, and a local union who also lives off of our property tax, but wants to add to our unfunded liabilities. I am for no new taxes or bonds within this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley Hildahl. I apologize, Stanley, about the last name. Followed by Scott Garrett.
You've got the last name correct.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for your service. I've served on public committees, and I realize it's a lot of work. My complaint is on meeting protocol, because at the last meeting, at the February 26th meeting, I noted that while outside speakers and presentations, computer and otherwise, were given much time, many of them did not have the standing of being Hemet citizens, who were given 3 minutes to speak or sometimes more. I also observed that several citizens were cut off with "You are out of time" from the mayor, even though the timer at the podium had 8 to 14 seconds on it. So if there is a timer discrepancy, you need to fix that. In closing, I would like to say, please keep services local. You have control that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Garrett, followed by Charles Rosen Rager. Again, I apologize. Last name.
Thank you. I just wanted to, I felt it necessary, Mayor, to come up and actually defend Tammy and to defend Linda. And, you know, I read the article, and what's troubling to me is they've given so much in so many ways that to this community that you don't know about, because there are no reporters, there are no cameras, there's no nothing. You know, just so many efforts. And, you know, once you say something bad, you can take it back, but it's like dropping pictures in front of the jury and saying, oops, I didn't mean that. You know, a lot of people now are look at them with suspicion, and I think it's unfair. They've given so much in the past, and I think it's in their DNA that they'll continue to give for as long as they can, and I just think it was a terrible thing to do. They didn't deserve it, and and what's most troubling is when at the meeting, when the appointments were made, none of that came up. And this is difficult to say, but we know where that information came from, and it didn't come from you. I mean, you know these people, and we know where it came from, and we have to pretend like we don't. And it's a personal vendetta that goes back long before you were around, and it's unfortunate that you've gotten caught up in it. And they're good people that do good things, and it's just too bad that it happened. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Shaw, is that correct? Thanks. Followed by James Pangrazzi.
Topic I would like to talk about is pit bulls. I don't live in the city limits. I live in the county, but I do the rest of my life is in Hemet. I've heard several accounts recently about pit bulls hurting people, killing other dogs, and even hurting car tires. And I would like to ask that the city will adopt some kind of policy regarding these very dangerous dogs, and make sure that the next accident is not going to happen in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaw. James Pangrazzi, followed by Stephen Westbrook.
Jim Pangrazzi again. Reason why I came on this one too is because at your last council meeting I came here basically to observe and learn, but I heard some things that weren't right, and I spoke about one of them. The other thing is Scott Miller came up here and testified in front of you why you should go with CAL FIRE. The man has no experience as to choosing between one or the other. He went into his job that he's got now, and he's in his third year with two county entities. I said third year he's into. The city of San Jacinto is just like you guys, no balanced budget. So what benefit would going from one to the other cause? Not very much. And Mr. Miller should be the last person to try and educate you guys on budgets. He's got a long history of having problems financially. Excuse my throat. He's got a long history of financial problems. And like I said, he still hasn't cured the problem he's got in San Jacinto. So please disregard whatever he said to you, because it don't make sense.
Stephen Westbrook, followed by Jerry Jekyls.
It may surprise you, as I certainly was surprised myself, to discover how disinterested Hemet's Animal Control Service was in regards to a vicious pit bull attack on our leashed small dogs at the gate of Hemet Simpson Park, killing one and injuring the other about 3 weeks ago. Yes, I know that Simpson Park is county land, and the incident was reported to the county animal control. A report was filed, and we've been contacted multiple times from 2 different officers. Unfortunately, county animal control has no jurisdiction to visit the dog's home, which is here in the city of Hemet, only 3 blocks from this chamber. Hemet Animal Control has this jurisdiction, but when they were contacted multiple times, I could get no one to take a report at all, nor would they return my calls. I was only able to speak with the front desk operator, who promised me that I would get a return call. Our valley has been the scene of at least 2 pit bull attacks on humans in the past 2 months, one of them fatal. In reading the Press Enterprise stories, I was struck by the quotes from Jeff Shepard, the CEO of Ramona Animal Shelter. The first case in which a 92-year-old woman was killed, he was quoted as saying, "They don't really seem aggressive. These are family pets. It's possible that the woman may have died before the animals attacked her." Unfortunately, a sudden act of raging violence from an otherwise calm animal is actually quite typical of pit bull attacks. After killing our little 12-year-old pug Mix, her attacker was quite calm also. Yet the head of your animal control service seems to not know this, or at least chose to defend the animal in the absence of a coroner's report as to cause of death. The second case, in which a 76-year-old woman walking on a public street was merely dragged around and punctured severely, he said that animal control had received no previous complaints about the dog. Based on my experience, it seems pretty clear that if no report is ever taken, then you don't have much of a history file to look back at. Again, it seems that the initial reaction of this animal control service is to defend the animal. By the way, the same newspaper article cited a neighbor rescued the woman as saying that the Animal Control Service had been contacted 4 to 5 times since the dog always gets loose. Please don't misunderstand me. I love dogs, small and large, and I am not looking for some kind of tit-for-tat justice. But I do not think that the public interest is served by having a non-responsive Animal Control Service. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Jekyll, followed by Jeffrey Scott Arnold. Jeffrey Jekyll.
Am I talking to this? All right, so I'm new to town. My name is Jeffrey Scott Arnold. I introduced myself. I'm the local Hemet Chess Club vice president. I'm the chess master, the senior chess master. I believe I'm the strongest chess master in Hemet. At the moment, I am. So I was addressing 15. I live on Park Columbia, at Park Columbia, off of Columbia Street in Hemet, and I've in with a diamond on 15A. I was addressing the installation of banners across Florida Avenue. I think it would be a good idea for the to approve the DVAC, the Diamond Valley Arts Council fundraiser concert at historic Hemet Theaters on May 18, 2013. I'm about 4 blocks from there, off of Florida, from the Diamond Valley, from one of the local shops, and it's a beautiful place. And I watched the seniors there, one adult male and some adult women, and they paint beautifully. It's a wonderful experience, and me being a chess master, I know that chess is like an art. So these individuals, they're senior citizens basically. They're senior citizens, and they paint beautifully, from what I've seen. So I definitely approve 15A, at least for the banners for the Diamond Valley Arts Council. I don't know the AYSO regarding 15B. I mean, I was a part of AYSO as a child, so I mean, just from knowing my own experience, I would also prove that from my past history. And the Hemet Valley Art Association, I was planning on joining that. I'm in with the art place off of Florida. Once again, it's the building between it's Yale and well, near Yale, off of Florida. So I'm definitely approved the banners for the 15C, and then the Salvation Army. I think the banners for 15D would be really important for the Salvation Army, because I think there's a lot of pain in Hemet.
30 seconds, Mr. Arnold.
Okay, that's regarding 15, correct? Mm-hmm. Basically, Salvation Army helps a tremendous amount of people, children, basically infants, to the max age that exists on the planet today. So I approve 15D as well for banners.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
So I was on for 17, correct, sir?
I have you down here. I give you your 3 minutes to speak on that.
Okay, I thought it wasn't 3 minutes per each?
I have you down here for public comments, for 3 minutes to speak on whatever you like.
Okay, that's for me now?
But your time's expired now.
Oh, I don't get anything for nothing else? Yeah, explain to me, because I don't know. I mean, I have a really powerful idea. I don't think I should leave here without it. I mean, I basically could probably bring you billions to him, and I don't think you should ignore Here, let me just tell you, I'm the top 1% in the world in chess. So basically my idea is this. I don't understand, well, here my thoughts, I'll be very appropriate. Just so you know, I can fast, I can close my eyes and stand here probably for...
Mr. Arnold?
Okay, water. The issue is water. Water here in Hemet. I can take a shower. I can fast.
Mr. Arnold,
we need to.
Mr. Arnold, real quick, if we can, for public comments, when you fill out, we give you 3 minutes to speak on that, but in this case, the time's expired, so we'll go ahead and move on to the next person so they have the ability to speak too.
I thought I was the last person.
Nope, we've got one more.
And then is there a time for anything at the very end?
No, that would be it, the 3 minutes that we give you.
Oh, 3 minutes, okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I want to know at least the process.
Okay.
I don't know,
yeah, so going forward, if you have particular items on the consent calendar, you can request to speak on that item specifically. In this case, you chose to do the public comment section, which is fine, so we give you that 3 minutes. But after the 3 minutes expires, we go ahead and move on so we can let the next person speak.
And I don't understand what I thought. You said 15. You said 3 minutes per item, though. You said 15, 17, and 19. So they didn't misinform me.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. We'll give you 3 minutes on item 17.
Okay, so basically we all drink water, right? So let's just say, for instance, let's just say God created the earth, and like in the Bible, we have, okay, so I don't eat earth. So we all need water. I'll get to the point. From what I've known, earth is mainly water. So I was taught in school 70% water. So why do we have soap? And personally, why do I take a shower with soap? Because I don't use soap anymore. I don't use soap. I don't need soap. Just so you know, last night I wanted to break the world record for longest time in the shower, just cleansing my body.
Mr. Arnold, did you want to speak on item number 17?
I wanted to talk about the water. That's the main issue here. Just so you know, I fast 7 days without food. I have in the past. I can fast 3 days without food and water. So I've stayed awake before.
Mr. Arnold, if I may.
I'm just changed to water. I got 3 minutes, right, for water.
That time is expired. I was going to give you time if you wanted to speak on item number 17 like you asked, but if not, I'm going to ask that you please go ahead and have a seat.
Okay, so 17, sorry, sir. For engineering, can I pass my time to number 18?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Go ahead, if you can go ahead and just please have a seat so we can let the next person speak.
I don't have 3 more minutes? I don't have like a minute
no,
and a half?
No, Mr. Arnold.
I thought I had 3 minutes. Okay, that was like a minute and a half.
I appreciate your taking the time to speak with us. Okay. Rob Davis, followed by Diane Moffitt.
Do I get 3 minutes? Mr. Mayor and City Council, apologize, that was a bad joke. My name is Rob Davis. I own a business here in Hemet. I've lived in the Valley all of my life, born over at Hemet Hospital. I have very strong feelings about this valley. I would want to point out I am a member of various groups, organizations in town, sit on a couple executive committees, and so I want to be clear, these comments are my own. Don't represent anybody but myself. In general, I'm in favor of competition too, and an RFP process in many instances is the right thing to do to make sure that as a business owner or as a running a city, you're getting a fair price. At some point, I would have been in favor of this process taking place some years ago, before our city was overrun like it's being overrun today with criminals. My position is today that we've waited a little long for that. That previous city councils sat on their hands and didn't do anything. Previous city managers intentionally covered up crime statistics and did not let us understand what was going on in the valley. But doing it right now, asking for an RFP for either the CAL FIRE or the sheriff, it's just the wrong thing at the wrong time. What we need to do is get control of our city again, however we have to do that. And also I would say as a business owner, I think that the argument that I've heard raised, it's not wise to use one-time funds such as the money received in the trash sale, is not a very good idea because you don't have a revenue source to take those back. But that assumes that everything else is equal, and it's not today. One look up and down Florida Avenue or all the side streets around it shows that if there's a war going on right now between us and the criminals in this valley, and all you can control is Hemet, we're losing that battle. We're losing on a daily basis over and over and over again, and what gets reported in the paper is not close to what's really happening. I'm not claiming any kind of conspiracy, but I work in the courts every day, and I hear what's going on. I heard some horrendous things today that I'd never read in the paper. We have a real crime problem. It's an extraordinary crime problem. We need to do something extraordinary to address it. For that reason, I encourage the City Council to abandon the RFP process on CAL FIRE. It's too divisive right now, and to abandon any thought. I know you haven't voted on it, but abandon any thought, and say it publicly so you give everybody some peace of mind that you will not, for some length of time at least, request an RFP for sheriff involvement in law enforcement. Let the city of Hemet, let the police department, the fire department do their jobs. Particularly, we don't want to lose any more good cops. If they think they're about to lose their job to the sheriff, they all have mortgage payments, they have families to support. Many are going to get while the getting's good. It's just the wrong time, and I see my time's up. It's just the wrong thing at the wrong time right now. I encourage you to please drop this RFP process.
Thank you, Rob. Diane Moffett.
I'm sorry you have to be here. I get those very uncomfortable. But you have our support. I wanted to just talk about the animal control issue that the gentlemen were talking about. I have been here 4 years and have experienced a neighbor with a vicious dog. And I have called RSA numerous times to come out because the dog attacked a neighbor on 2 occasions, and the woman constantly has the dog off leash. Interestingly enough, I called our city manager, Nakamura, and the very next day, animal control was out. I did speak to the president of Ramona Animal Control, Jeff Shepard, and I said to him, why aren't your officers doing more about this? He said, there are no city ordinances for leash laws. I pulled up off the internet both county and city ordinances for leash laws and faxed it to him. He was not aware that there were leash laws. So we do not get response in Valley Hermosa for animal control. We have dogs on leash attacking people. Animal control will not come out. They tell me that they're watching these homes when they really aren't. And I just want people to know that the reason you're not getting any response is animal control has no interest. There's no one monitoring them. There's no one filing complaints against them. So these were legitimate complaints tonight about vicious dogs that aren't being addressed. Thank you.
I'll ask if I can get the city manager to just maybe get a work study with Ramona Animal Shelter in terms of their services and what they provide, maybe like a work study so they can educate the council, of course, but also the public. That'd be good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, that's what I have for communications for the public. I'll ask for city council reports. Councilmember Krupa.
The only thing I have to report would be on RTA, and as a new, quote, regular member of that board, I was an alternate for 2 years and now a full-fledged member. We had a tour of their facility in Riverside, and I will tell you that that agency is extremely impressive. The ridership on all of the buses in western Riverside County this last year in 2012, each month was a greater percentage than the month before and the year before, and it's starting the same way this year. And I'm sure the cost of gas has a whole lot to do with that. But I will say that the express commuter bus between San Jacinto, Hemet, and Escondido has risen over 300% in the last year. And when they get to Escondido, there's the option apparently of whether it's another bus or whether they have the light rail up that far. I'm not sure. But it really is an impressive thing, and I think we need to really push with RCTC, Larry, to make sure that the next link in MetroLink is indeed coming from Paris to Hemet, San Jacinto, and that's where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
So that's the extent of my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Milne.
Okay. I just have the library to report on, and their events over the last few weeks have gone very well. The one request that I did get from the library, because we do hold our meetings here and we do have other occasions that we as a city use. The library would like us to kind of give them a heads up, an even more advanced heads up, kind of discuss things with them, because I think they kind of feel thrust upon, that we just use it willy-nilly and don't take them into consideration. I think it's very important that we work as a team and discuss those things that are, that we want to do, and give them more of a heads up and make them feel like they're more part of the process and have a little bit more respect for that this is their library and we get to use it. So that was something that I think that was very felt. And other than that, they do have some goals. They're still working out the goals, so they will give those to me and do that. But for anybody, and I will have to say, for those of you that don't know, I have a special needs child, and I also have a child with dyslexia. And we had asked, so if any of you know, I asked this library, I want to tell you how great they are. I asked them, I said, during the summer as parents, because so many times we give our kids over to the awesome people that teach our kids at these special needs schools, and then we get them home as parents and we're like, okay, now what? Where can we go and where are these resources? I brought this up to the library, and within 3 weeks they had resources for me. They have interns coming in this summer to work specifically with your special needs child. And so for anybody, I'm so excited. So number one, for anybody, and encourage those in San Jacinto and around the area, if you do have kids or know of kids in your neighborhood that could bring these people in to look at this fantastic library we have and the staff that we have, to know that those resources are here, and we will have kids that are college kids as interns helping our kids not go dormant, because you know how important it is our kids don't go dormant during the summer. So I am very, very excited, and I am so proud of our library, so proud of our staff. So, okay, sorry, I got a little emotional. There we go.
Councilmember Wright.
Mayor Youssef, first of all, I want to apologize for not recognizing or not indicating our new planning commissioner, Rick Cremeni, that's been appointed to the Planning Commission. And if you'll come up, Rick, I want to say that for those of you who don't know or remember, Mr. Cremeni served on the Planning Commission a few years back. And, it was interesting that for those that served with him, I got glowing accolades of what a fine job he did. And I look forward to him sitting on the commission again. And Rick, would you like to come up and say something? He's going to kill me for that.
It's a reluctant yes.
That was a reluctant yes. I know.
That's all right. It is my pleasure to become a planning commissioner once again. I had a great job. I think it's great that I'm looking forward to working with staff in planning and try to get some new businesses and new things open in this city for progress. Please.
Thank you for stepping up and sitting again. I'm sorry for going out of order there, but I would have felt really bad if I hadn't done that. So I did meet with and get an update with regards to Crime Stoppers Plus, and they're up and running and moving forward. They're increasing their database and neighborhood watch programs and making sure that people know what's available. I hope that in the near future they'll do a presentation to the council as to the steps that they've taken and in moving their organization forward and for the betterment of the community. So that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and let me report on RCTC first. Linda, I hear you loud and clear, and I will expect you to remind me of the necessary link we need to make to continue the mobility patterns back into and out of our valley. Yesterday, RCTC Budget Committee just approved a $1.3 billion project. It's hard to believe these transportation projects are now reaching over $1 billion for the 9115 toll road. Well, why is that important to you and I? Well, if you go to Orange County in the next few years, it's going to be very, very important. If we do nothing, commutes increase by 21 minutes. If we do something, commutes increase by 3 minutes. So it's difficult to keep up with the game. I think what's important for us is that mega project gets on the books, gets started, and gets funded, gives us focus and opportunity for those projects closer to home. Mid-County Parkway, 79. They just move up the mega project ladder one more level. So yesterday was very significant to be able to completely, fully fund that project. It's important for the transportation link between Riverside and Orange County. Also, the public comment period, I believe, is over for Highway 79. I would still encourage either opposition or in favor of, make certain you communicate with RCTC. There's been some meetings in town. I want everybody to be involved in the process. I have my personal opinion, how important I think the project is to our community. I certainly want to hear from everybody else on both sides of the argument. Also yesterday at RCTC, we received support across the board from the Commission that we will take to the regular board for SB 337. And let me quickly explain what this is. This is a bill sponsored by Bill Emerson, and it is for a relinquishment of Highway 74. Now, Caltrans right now has control on all activities going down Highway 74 through the heart of our community. We're not giving up the roadway. We're looking at the potential and the possibility. Is it in our best interest to become lead agency for activity? This highway has been relinquished in Elsinore and Palm Desert and other places, so there's precedent for that. Other communities who have done this in the past have seen tremendous opportunity to be progressive and move businesses forward. So we're going to find out. This is the investigative stage of it. We're going to make a determination whether there is enough money in the pot to allow us to sustain this going forward. So SB 337 is a spot bill right now, which means it's still being built. It's going to go through the Assembly. I'd really encourage a letter, a note, an email, a phone call to Senator Emerson and let him know that you think this might be an important thing for our community. Last, I want to report out that the last council meeting I was not here. I was sequestered in D.C. So, but I think it was a worthwhile and meaningful trip. It was National League of Cities, one of their semi-annual annual meetings, and I grapple with this organization. It's so important to be involved at the national level, but yet also it's money being spent, and this is tough times to spend money for these activities. But I really believe that we miss out on much more by not being there. So I'm working with staff, I'm working with our budget to figure out a way we can continue participation. Had a really good one-on-one meeting with our new congressman, told him specifically about the plight of Hemet and our major concerns about public safety, looked in the whites of his eyes, and he said, I will be there for you. I'm looking forward for somebody that will understand the difficulties and the concerns we have here. And in my first encounter and meeting with him, I get that sense that Congressman Ruiz wants to work with this community and give us representation in Washington, D.C. So we'll continue to work with him. We've got some pilot programs and some plans. I got his attention on a few things, and we're going to continue that communication. So worthwhile trip. Difficult to spend the money, I'll always say that, but having an opportunity to get a sense and a feel for communities all over America. Let me tell you, they're feeling the exact same pain that we are. It's happening everywhere. Cities are having to do things to provide services they've never had to do before. These are difficult, trying times. Some cities are coming out on top. Some of them are really, really struggling. So I get a sense on what we may need to do going forward to improve the plight and the condition of our city. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. For me, just Hemet Rocks. We have Hemet Rocks Thursday at 3:30. Obviously, part of the consent calendar was to finish off the social host ordinance. I wanted to thank Deanna for all your hard work on this. I wanted to thank your staff. I also want to thank the Rocks committee as well. Mike Ramirez from Hemet Can for your guys' hard work on that. And Deanna, keep it up, and I appreciate it. And so Hemet Rocks will be located here 3:30 this Thursday. At this time, I'll ask if there's any future agenda items. The only one that I had was, again, I brought up to you, City Manager, if we can get a work study with animal control.
I just have one question going back to the discussion action item that we spent so much time on tonight. I would really like to see a motion. In fact, I'd make a motion to really take it off the table at this time and address the crime problems and economic development and see if we can create in some way a resource and revenue stream that this community can get behind to fund the needs that we absolutely have. I would make that as a motion to take it off the table.
I'd like to second that motion. In a motion, I'd like to second that motion.
Okay. Eric, how does that work?
Well, Mayor, the item had been closed. There was no recommendation by staff for action or not recommending action at this time because we still have meet and confer obligations with the Hemet Firefighters Association that we need to engage in. That being said, the council member has made a motion and there's been a second for it. Simply because we didn't recommend an action doesn't mean that a council member can't ask for it. So we have to dispose of the motion.
Okay.
Can I just ask another question on that, and this would be of legal. I understand that the meet and confer process does have to go on with Hemet Fire because they have indeed made overtures to maintain their 5% pay reduction from prior years, so that it would be part of a meet and confer. Legally, I don't want to get sideways of unions, but at the same time, I think it's going to be my emotional outpouring. I think there's a healing that needs to start now in this city and go forward.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor.
maybe I should clarify. When I said that we need to dispose of the motion, that means you need to act on the motion. You need to vote on the motion. I understand your comments about meet and confer. I'm not going to comment
agree.
about
We
those.
need to vote on that, but at the same time, the meet and confer still has to continue, correct? Or not? I mean, it's part of the
If the
solution.
motion were to pass, we would have to go and get supplemental direction from you as to whether or not to continue to meet and confer over the decision to contract out. I know that that sounds silly to the audience, but we only take direction on negotiating positions in closed session.
Right.
So if your motion were to pass, I would be asking you to add another item, which would essentially be to reopen our discussions from earlier, and we would go back into closed session and discuss what we would do. We are going to have to negotiate with Hemet Fire with regard to their MOU.
Yes.
Whether we contract out fire or not, that still remains. There's still that negotiation. One of the things we would discuss is whether we start that process earlier in the event your motion were to pass.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may say something
Sure.
as well. God, where do you begin? You know, it's time that we put this issue to rest and do city business. Address the crime that we are facing in the city. Realize that we need to put a financial plan together to pay for this, no matter who we end up going with or when and if we ever do. The point, go out and outsource. We've heard from the business community. We've heard from the schools. We've heard from the community at large. And we have got to use our staff for what we need to get back, how we need to get back to business, economic development, clean up the city, and move forward. We've stood still too long, and that's why I hope that we can put this to rest for the time being.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilperson Krupa to stop item number 19, a second by Council Member Wright. All those in favor to stop item number 19, please signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Nay. That motion fails 3-2. Any other future agenda items?
Mayor, before we adjourn, can I point out for the public that the failure of that motion is not an affirmative decision to contract out with CAL FIRE. Right. All it was to continue the process and our meet and confer process. Thank you.
Okay, at this time we will adjourn the meeting to Tuesday, April 9th at 7 p.m. Thank you.